The apartment felt even heavier in the days that followed. Amina tried to keep herself busy, but silence has a way of growing louder when life slows down. She would wake up early, sit on the edge of her bed, and just stare at nothing for long stretches of time. Sometimes she would make tea and forget to drink it. Sometimes she would open her phone, see old messages from Daniel, and quickly lock the screen again as if the memories themselves could hurt her physically. The world outside didn't stop for her pain. Neighbors still laughed in the hallway. Children still ran down the stairs. Life still continued as if nothing had changed. But inside her, something had changed completely. She began to notice how loneliness can feel like a second skin. One afternoon, she went to the small grocery store nearby. The shopkeeper greeted her politely, but even that simple interaction felt distant. She picked up a few basic items, calculating every coin carefully. Money was becoming tight now. Daniel's support had stopped completely, and she had not yet found stable work. When she reached the counter, the total was slightly higher than she expected. She hesitated for a moment, then quietly removed one item from the bag. "I'm sorry? I'll leave this," she said softly. The shopkeeper nodded without much expression, and she stepped out with a smaller bag and a heavier heart. On the way back, she walked slowly under the fading sunlight. The sky was turning orange again, just like the evening Daniel left. That memory still had the power to tighten her chest. "God," she whispered under her breath, "I don't even know how to survive like this." There was no dramatic answer. No sudden miracle. Only the sound of her footsteps and the distant hum of the city. That night, she sat on the floor instead of the bed. Something about the bed reminded her too much of loss. She opened the Bible again, not because she felt strong, but because she felt empty enough to try anything. Her eyes moved slowly across the pages until she found another verse. "Do not fear, for I am with you, I will never leave you nor forsake you." She read it once. Then again. And again. Her throat tightened. "If you are really here," she said softly, "then why does it feel like I am alone?" The room didn't answer. But something inside her began to break in a different way, not the breaking of despair this time, but the breaking of resistance. As if her heart was slowly learning to stop fighting the idea that maybe, just maybe, God had not left her. Days turned into weeks. Amina started waking up and reading a small portion of scripture every morning, even when she didn't feel anything. Some days it felt empty. Some days it felt like words on paper only. But she kept doing it because it was the only thing that made the silence slightly less painful. One morning, while sitting by the window, she noticed a woman across the street helping an elderly man carry his groceries. It was a small act, almost ordinary, but something about it touched her deeply. The way the woman smiled, the patience in her movements, the gentleness, it reminded Amina that kindness still existed in the world. And for the first time in a long while, she felt a whisper inside her heart. "Maybe I am not completely forgotten." She didn't fully believe it yet. But she didn't reject it either. That was new. And sometimes, in the darkest places, even the smallest light is enough to keep a soul from giving up. Bible on the table across the room. She didn't feel like reading it. Not this time. But she still got up and opened it. Her hands moved almost automatically now, as if something deeper than emotion was guiding her habits. She didn't open it randomly this time. It fell open to a familiar passage she had read before, but somehow it felt different today. "Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you." She read it slowly. Then again. Something in her chest softened, just slightly. Not relief. Not joy. Just a loosening of tension she had been carrying for too long. "I don't know how to do that," she said quietly. "I don't know how to give everything to you when everything feels like it's falling apart." Still, she closed her eyes. For the first time in weeks, she prayed without trying to sound strong. "God, I'm tired. I don't have answers. I don't even have strength left. If you are really there, help me. Even if I don't feel you." It wasn't a powerful prayer. But it was honest. And somehow, honesty felt like the first real step she had taken in a long time. Later that day, she went outside to find help with the water issue. The building's maintenance was slow, but while she was standing near the entrance, she noticed an elderly woman struggling with a heavy bag of groceries. The woman paused, breathing heavily, trying to balance everything in her arms. Amina hesitated. Something inside her wanted to keep walking. She was already overwhelmed, already drained. Something else, quiet and persistent, moved her feet forward. "Let me help you," she said. The woman looked up, surprised. "Thank you, dear." Amina carried the bag upstairs for her. It wasn't heavy physically, but emotionally, it felt like she was lifting something off her own chest too. When they reached the woman's door, the lady smiled warmly. "You have a kind heart," she said. "Don't lose it." Amina gave a small, tired smile and turned to leave. But the word stayed with her. Don't lose it. On her way back to her apartment, something strange happened inside her. The emptiness didn't disappear, but it felt slightly less suffocating. Like a window had been cracked open in a room she had been trapped in for too long. That evening, she sat by the window again. The sky looked softer than before. She whispered, "God, if you are teaching me something, I don't understand it yet. Don't let me become empty inside." After that felt different, but not easier. Amina still struggled with money. The water issue took days to fix. Some nights she went to sleep with an empty stomach, telling herself it was fine, that she had survived worse. But emotional pain doesn't follow logic, it just sits quietly in the heart and waits for weakness. One afternoon, while standing outside a small church nearby, she paused. She didn't plan to go in. She was just walking past when she noticed a small group of women gathering near the entrance. They were talking softly, some carrying Bibles, others smiling at each other in a way that felt unfamiliar to her now. That kind of ease, that kind of peace. One of the women noticed her standing alone. She walked over gently. "Hello, dear. Are you looking for someone?" Amina hesitated. "No. I was just passing by." The woman smiled warmly. "We're having a small prayer meeting inside. You are welcome if you want to join." Amina almost said no immediately. Old instincts told her to stay away, to avoid attention, to keep her pain private. But something inside her, the same quiet pull she had been feeling lately, didn't let her move. So she nodded slightly. "Okay. I'll sit for a little while." Inside, the room was simple. Wooden benches, soft light coming through windows, and a calm atmosphere that felt almost unfamiliar to Amina. People were praying softly, not loudly, not dramatically, just speaking to God like he was truly listening. She sat at the back, trying not to be noticed. The woman who invited her sat beside her later and whispered, "My name is Ruth." "Amina," she replied softly. Ruth didn't ask many questions. She didn't force conversation. She simply sat there with her, occasionally smiling, occasionally closing her eyes in prayer. After a while, a woman stood and shared a testimony. "I went through a season where I had nothing," she said. "No support. No answers. I felt abandoned. But I learned something: when people leave, God does not." Amina felt something tighten in her chest. She tried to ignore it. But the words followed her. After the meeting ended, Ruth turned to her. "You don't have to talk about anything if you don't want to," she said gently. "But if you ever feel alone, you can come here again." Amina nodded, not trusting her voice. On her way home, her thoughts were louder than usual. Why does everyone speak about God like he is close, when I feel him so far away? That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the woman's testimony. About the peace in that room. About Ruth's kindness. Finally, she sat up and whispered into the darkness. "God, if you are real in that place, why do I feel so far from it?" Silence. Then, unexpectedly, her mind recalled something she had heard long ago in church. Faith is not feeling. It is trust. She didn't fully understand it. But for the first time, she considered that maybe her feelings were not the measure of God's presence. Maybe her pain was not proof of his absence. The next day, she returned to the church again. And the day after that. She didn't speak much. She didn't share her story. But she listened. She sat a day. She learned. Slowly, something inside her began to soften, not all at once, but like ice melting under quiet warmth. One evening, Ruth walked with her after the meeting. "You seem tired all the time," Ruth said gently. Amina gave a small laugh. "That's normal for me now." Ruth shook her head. "It doesn't have to stay normal." Amina looked at her, unsure. Ruth continued, "God doesn't just want you to survive. He wants to heal you." Those words stayed in her mind long after she reached home. That night, for the first time, Amina didn't pray out of desperation. She prayed out of something smaller, but more real. "God, I don't know what healing looks like. But if you are still writing my story, don't stop." And somewhere in the silence that followed, she didn't feel alone in the same way anymore. Not because her life had changed. But because something inside her finally believed that it could. The weeks that followed brought a quiet routine into Amina's life. Every morning, she spent a few minutes reading her Bible before starting the day. Every week, She attended the church gatherings and listened carefully. She still carried pain, but it no longer felt like a crushing weight that made it impossible to breathe. Then came another trial. One rainy afternoon, Amina received a call from the company where she worked part-time. The manager sounded uncomfortable. "I'm sorry," he said. "Business has been slow. We have to reduce staff. Today will be your last day." For a moment, she thought she had heard him wrong. "What? We're letting several employees go." It wasn't an easy decision. The conversation ended quickly. Amina sat frozen on her chair, staring at the phone in her hand. The room felt smaller. The air felt heavier. She had already lost so much. Now she had lost her job too. Fear rushed through her mind like a flood. How would she pay rent? How would she buy food? What would happen next? For a few moments, old thoughts returned. The hopelessness. The loneliness. The feeling that life was working against her. She sat at the kitchen table and buried her face in her hands. Tears slipped through her fingers. "Why?" she whispered. "I'm trying, God. I'm really trying." The fear was real. The uncertainty was real. But something was different this time. Instead of pulling away from God, she turned toward Him. That evening she went to the church. The building was mostly empty. Only a few lights were on. Ruth was arranging books near one of the tables when she saw Amina enter. Immediately she noticed the sadness on her face. What happened? Amina tried to stay composed, but the words came out broken. "I lost my job." Ruth sat beside her quietly. For several moments she said nothing. Then she gently placed a hand over Amina's. "I'm sorry." Amina wiped her eyes. "I keep thinking things are getting better, and then something else happens." Ruth nodded. "I understand." "No, you don't," Amina replied softly. "Every time I stand back up, something knocks me down again." Ruth looked at her kindly. "Can I tell you something?" Amina nodded. "There were years in my life when I thought God had forgotten me. My husband died unexpectedly. My children moved away. I spent many nights crying alone." Amina listened carefully. "But looking back now," Ruth continued, "I realize something important. God never promised that life would be easy. He promised that He would stay with us through it." The words settled into Amina's heart. Not because they erased her fear, but because they felt true. That night the two women prayed together. A simple prayer. No dramatic miracles. No grand declarations. Just faith. When Amina returned home, her circumstances had not changed. She was still unemployed. Her bills still existed. Her future was still uncertain. But her heart felt steadier. The next morning she woke up determined not to surrender to despair. She spent hours searching for work. Days passed. Then another week. Still nothing. Several employers never responded. Others rejected her politely. Each rejection hurt. Each silence felt personal. Yet every evening she continued praying. "Lord, I don't understand this season. But I trust you with it." One day, while helping clean the church after a gathering, she noticed a young woman sitting alone near the back. The woman looked upset. Very upset. Amina recognized that look immediately. She had seen it in her own mirror many times. After a moment, she walked over. "Are you okay?" The woman shook her head. Tears filled her eyes. "My life is falling apart." Amina sat beside her. For nearly an hour, she listened. The woman spoke about heartbreak, fear, disappointment, and loneliness. As Amina listened, something unexpected happened. She realized she wasn't the same woman she had been months ago. Months earlier, she had been the one drowning. Now she was helping someone else stay afloat. Not because she had all the answers. Not because her life was perfect. But because she understood pain. And because God had slowly taught her how to keep going through it. Before leaving, the young woman smiled weakly. "Thank you," she said. "I really needed someone to listen." Amina smiled back. As she walked home that evening, she felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Purpose. A small purpose. But a real one. For months she had focused on everything she had lost. Now she was beginning to see what God might still do through her. That night she opened her Bible before bed. Her eyes landed on a verse she had read many times before. "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him." She read it slowly. Then she smiled. Not because everything was good. Not because every problem was solved. But because she was beginning to believe that God could bring good even out of broken things. For the first time in a long while, she slept peacefully. And while she did not know it yet, a new chapter of her life was about to begin, one that would show her that God's plans were far bigger than her fears, and his faithfulness far stronger than her pain.